Hey everybody, Minus here from Pantheon Plus, and tonight I am with, again, Hayah.
Huh.
Hayah! Alright, well, tonight we're talking about something pretty awesome. We are talking about death.
I don't know if it's awesome, but it's something.
Well, it's been a big topic in the community, so I figured why not take a few minutes and talk about death. We've played quite a few games with quite a few differences in the way death is handled, so I thought that we could start there. So let's
Okay.
talk about. We're getting going quick here, so
Right in.
right
Let's
to
do
the
it.
topic. So there's let's just go through them real quick and then we'll break them down. So in WoW, you died, you turned into a spirit, you ran back to your corpse as a spirit.
Absolutely zero consequence.
Zero consequence. Armor destroyed.
I
Zero con.
mean, still though,
Yeah.
not really.
In Final Fantasy 14, it's interesting. So you just die. There's no corpse to recover.
Mm-hmm.
And you respawn back to where you were bound. So you could die across the world and you just respawn back at your home point.
And then
So
teleport back to close to where you were and run
yeah.
back.
So as much as we make fun of WoW for being non-consequential, Final Fantasy 14 is probably even worse.
Yeah, the prime offender for
Yeah.
sure.
And then back in the day, EverQuest was like Final Fantasy 14, except for you spawned halfway across the world with no gear on.
And there was an XP penalty.
And an XP penalty. Yeah. So, and I'll tell you, I remember those days pretty vividly. I think we've talked about it before, but I had dual computers set up in my bedroom when I was a kid,
Nice.
and my grandparents would go out of town every weekend, and we would have copious amounts of alcohol at our parties.
Yep.
Don't watch this, Graham. So, and we would get drunk, and at some point, me and my EQ buddies would end up on the computers, and we would die.
And not remember where you died.
Nope.
Yeah?
And wake
Wow.
up the next morning, and I got no gear on, and I'm in Freeport, and I'm
What did we
like,
do last night, man?
okay, somebody get a
Yeah.
necro. So for those of you that didn't play EQ, yes, there's a death penalty. You spawned at your bind point.
Mm-hmm.
Some games now spawn you like at graveyards and stuff closer to your point of death. This was not that case. So you had to fight your way across the world with no gear on. And again, you had the EXP lost to the point where you could lose levels,
Mm-hmm.
which was heartbreaking at times.
Sometimes more than one if you did really bad.
Yeah. So death in EverQuest was probably as far as MMOs go, is probably the most consequential in EQ1.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, so, yeah,
Of the ones I've played, anyway.
yeah. I mean, Guild Wars. I don't even remember what happened when you died in Guild Wars. Did I? I don't know if I ever died. There has to actually be challenge in the game, I think.
Well, that's saying something else entirely, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's the funny part too. In thinking about Pantheon, in instanced games, you spawn at the beginning of a dungeon. If you die in a dungeon in Pantheon, you spawn back at your bind point. As far as we
You got to
know,
get back there.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's pretty crazy. Okay, so what we want to kind of break down is what we would like to see in Pantheon. We'll talk about in more depth about EXP loss. We're gonna talk a little bit more about corpse runs, and we're gonna talk about just the fact that death is meaningful and what that does. So let's start there. Meaningful death. In WoW, we didn't feel that ever.
Nope.
You dying was a strategy at times.
Yeah, absolutely. Mythic
Right.
Plus runs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Wipe it. We'll start it over.
Yeah.
Go.
Save
We're good.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so the closest thing that we've had, and I don't want to say it was super meaningful, but we played some EQ too.
Okay.
And we were really trying not to die because we worked our way so far into a dungeon that we didn't want to have to fight our way back, which was what was scary. So there was that sense of don't die because I don't know if we're going to be able to get back to where we were, right?
Well, it wasn't just that we weren't sure we would be able to fight our way back. It's that I don't think we would have found our way back because we kind of just accidentally our way through that dungeon.
Yeah. And the other thing too is in EverQuest 2, at least at the time that we've played it, you respawn with all your gear.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a reason to run back, really, other than to get back to where you were. right?
Uh-huh.
And then I was just thinking of another game. We played Vanguard for a little bit, and that was
Yep.
a lot more like EverQuest. The difference was instead of EverQuest losing experience, you would actually gain an experience debt.
A debt.
So let's go there. Let's talk that topic. When you die in Pantheon, don't worry about corpse runs and all that where you're spawning. What's the base penalty that you want to see in Pantheon for death?
I don't care either way. A debt or a penalty, it's the same to me because you're losing.
But you want a penalty. When you say you don't
Yes,
care,
yes.
yeah, okay,
Oh, I don't care which of
okay,
the two schools of thoughts we go with, but there should be a penalty. Death should be something you want to avoid at all costs.
yeah,
Otherwise, you feel like a superhero in a Marvel movie, and you can't die, or
yeah.
you don't get penalized for dying.
And let's be honest, the Marvel hero that was the most invulnerable to death, Captain Marvel, had to be the worst one out of all of them. So
Yeah, all right.
we're getting into pop media here.
Yeah.
Okay, so I agree with you that they have to have one. I am a big fan of experience debt.
Okay.
Um, I don't want to de-level. I think that's very. We can have enough pain and penalty in the game where we don't need to de-level and rememorize spell loadouts, or if there are spell loadouts, and what spells we can use, and God forbid gear has some level on it in certain aspects. I would imagine we're not going to see a lot of that, like we talked about last week.
Yeah.
So I would rather build up a debt and almost in a sense create a hell level for yourself. If you die a lot, which is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
Create a level that you're
No.
just bad. Create a
Cool is
level
not the
that,
word I'd use.
well, you're gonna do what you can to avoid that.
Absolutely.
You definitely want to avoid it. So, and I think that's the whole point of what we're talking about tonight is death can't be non-consequential. When you're not afraid to die in a gaming world, the world is less meaningful, I
And the
think.
way you approach the world and certain things is very different too.
Yeah, I mean, when you're in a dungeon and death is a really bad thing, your heart's racing. You're trying to
You're
you're being
worried? Yeah.
being more careful, and it's feeling part of the environment.
Hmm.
I think that has to happen. I don't know. I just, anybody who hasn't played a game with experience debt or loss, it's a big deal, and I think it needs to be consequential. We should be trying to die as minimally as possible and being able to be as smart as possible, which really ties
Yes.
into why I want to play a rogue so much, if I can be honest with you.
Why do you think I play monk? Because I get feign death, and I can
Yeah,
just be like, I'm out of this one, guys. Have fun.
yeah. Okay, so let's shift off. I think we both agree we want something. I'm more towards debt. You just want something. That's fair. Let's talk about corpse runs. Now we've
Okay.
seen some variations of corpse runs. We've seen there are games where you Vanguard's a good one actually. You respawn, but you can go back to your corpse to get some experience back, right?
Yep.
And if you're rezzed, you'll gain some of your debt back, right?
Hmm.
So the talk is, you and me have both been on some monstrous corpse runs in the past. I'm going to start with
Yeah.
you. What do you want the corpse retrieval process to look like?
I grew up on the EverQuest model, right? That's my basis for MMOs, and I'm completely fine with you die, you respawn naked, with a debt or a penalty, either or, and you have to figure your shit out and get back to your corpse and get your stuff.
Okay.
I'm good with that. That's fine by me.
And you're fine then
Alternative,
having,
the alternative, fine, but it's less consequential then, and I might use a death as a way to gate or to get back to wherever I need to be then if my gear doesn't stay where the body is.
even with a big EXP debt?
Calculated loss. I'm that kind of a player.
Okay.
In those games, I do that stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
So is this where then, you're going to have um, a bag in the bank of backup gear?
No,
You're
no,
not a player who does that? You're going in naked?
no, no, because the types of characters I play don't require that so much.
Oh, so you're just gonna run and die,
I,
fiend
I'll,
and
I'll
run and
flip
fiend.
flop. That's what we call the
Yeah.
run and feign thing. I'll flip flop my way back to my corpse if I have to, or I would contact someone in that zone and say, "Hey, I'm at this camp. Can you get a res? Can you drag me, or whatever the hell it may be?" But I'm a resourceful dude when I need to be.
Yeah,
So
getting
none
your
of it
corpse and
worries
gear
me.
back is always going to put you. For those who
Yeah.
haven't done it, they don't understand how much you will figure it out when your gear is sitting there with the potential to lose it. You're going to figure out how to get your corpse back.
Yep. So
So
let me tell a small story here
yeah,
about the worst corpse recovery of my life, and you've probably done it too. Plane of Fear. When you tried to break into a fresh Plane of Fear spawn in EverQuest 1, it was hell on wheels. It was awful. And if you lost and you had an entire guild that had to get its corpse out of that shithole, you had to contact your competition and say, "Hey, look, we tried to break Fear. We goofed. Can you come help?" And it was really like a tail tucked between your legs kind of experience to do. And I've done it more than once. So, you get used to those things and you find a way.
yeah, nothing was more scary than not knowing where my corpse was in the world.
Exactly.
Like one time, my corpse was in the ocean of tears in the water.
Oh, good, good. That's good.
Fell off a
Yeah.
boat and drowned or something while I was drinking.
Hmm.
Okay, so the big debate here is that death needs to be meaningful, right? So
Yes.
you have to hope your group survives to res you, and you're
Hmm.
gonna get, you know what, 75% of your loss back if you get resed. 50,
Anything's better than none, but yeah, something.
yeah. And then the running. I got to be honest with you. I spent so many years corpse running, where you lose your gear. There's really part of me that thinks everything else is okay, but the naked corpse run, I think, needs reinvented. I really do. I think that was an old mechanic made because that's was also limitations of the game in a sense. And I feel like, I mean, well, think about it. It's 1999. You don't have all these infinite resource sets and these ideas yet. You're building the first game, and someone's like, "Well, what happens when you die?" Well, your body's there. It was okay. Like that was it.
I don't know if that was limitations or just a
Well,
form of punishment.
okay, I get that. But now that we've seen so much more and we've seen so many cool things, like, let me pose a couple ideas, and you just say yay or nay. You can rip
Okay.
on me here. I'm just gonna throw some ideas. Number one, you can take old gear through some means of crafting or quest system and create soul gear,
Ghost gear. I like
ghost
it
gear.
actually.
So when you die and you respawn, you're not a ghost, but you have your soul gear on for X amount of time. It can even
Okay.
decay over time. So you had a little bit of gear to go in. Not a bad idea, right?
Not bad at all.
Okay. Number two, this is a big if. If you
Okay.
don't go back to your bind point, if you go to a nearby graveyard, okay, which may happen, if you go to a nearby area, you are in the spirit realm,
Yeah.
but you are fighting your way through the spirit world back to your corpse.
Which would be like a separate set of NPCs in your way, kind of
Yeah,
a
that
thing.
could even spawn to you. Um, like as you go so far, they can literally spawn around you and you're fighting your way back. So hear me out. So it's difficult to get through these enemies, right? A lot of like
Uh-huh.
slowing, miserable things to slow you down. You have to kill them, barriers or something put up. But the fact of the matter is that you spawn and you have X amount of experience loss and then X amount of decaying experience. And it's decaying over time. So you have X amount of time to get back to your corpse before all the experience you could have lost is gone.
See, I don't think that's a bad idea, but I think implementing it would be a nightmare.
What if you made random generated spirit dungeons and point B is respawning back out of your corpse, like once you get from point A to point B?
Not a fan.
No, okay. Maybe I'm going a little crazy with it, but I
Yeah.
I like corpse runs. I am not a big fan of being gearless. So, I mean, I'll be a guy who might have a set of gear in the bank. I don't necessarily need the gear not to be on my corpse. I don't necessarily need to have that gear, but I'd really
Yeah.
like to see a way to spirit meld like a set of gear for when you die.
Hmm. Although I kind of like the idea of a spirit system as well. Like that, I'm not opposed to that. But
Yeah. I mean, again, that might be completely overdone and a grandiose
mm,
idea for it. I want to have corpse runs, but I want to have the option to say, and that's the last one. So in Vanguard, you spawned with your gear, you took a big experience hit. So you could say, I'm done for the night, I'm out. Or you could say, let's go get my corpse back because I really
I'll
need
get a
that
percentage.
experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I can get some of that back. I don't
Well,
know
that's
that
part of
that's enough.
my being against your idea of a spirit dungeon, for lack of a better term for that. Is that if I die and I just decide fuck it, I'll get it tomorrow. Okay, then I can't do that if I'm stuck in some spirit dungeon either.
Or if you decline to go into the spirit dungeon, something like that.
If you
Like,
give me if you give me a prompt and an option, yeah, that's a better. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of a grandiose outside the box idea. I was
Mm-hmm.
in my car listening to Battle Axe Theater, and they were talking a little bit about it, and I was like texting it, and Punk's like, "That's a good idea. I think I heard that on Reddit." I'm like, "Kiss my ass. That's not a Reddit thing. I've never heard that a
It's a
day in my
minus
life."
original.
Yeah, it was. It was super original. You know how proud of myself I was sitting in my car talking about that? Like this random generated spirit fight world. And what would be even cooler is if your group died, your group could all
You
be
could
spirits
group dungeon
together.
spirit. Yeah, okay, that sounds kind of
And
neat.
then how about this? Like some bosses or certain events where you go into the spirit world to fight
Yeah,
with the timer. Like you could really do a lot with it. Is it a very complicated system? Yes. Are
absolutely.
limitations crazy? Yes. But you could
Uh-huh.
really simplify it with like a random dungeon generator. Like you
Mm-hmm.
really could. Um, and even have like a random boss that you have to fight. Oh, it'd be super cool.
I think you're reaching a little bit.
It would be so cool. It would just be something different, right? Um,
Yeah.
it would, and here's the thing, like, imagine that you were in that spirit world fighting your way back. Your group is still fighting. All of a sudden, you just burst out of your corpse, like your spirit flies out of your corpse and you're back because I just fought my way through hell to get back and help you guys finish this fight. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's an epic moment. Yep.
Again, something different. I'm sure there's a lot of people that be like, "My, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard." But
Yep.
so you are. I think we both want some sort of run back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Says the rogue and monk.
Yep. We're not going to be the dead ones to begin with, but
Clerics are like, I don't want that. All right, cool. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of people have been talking about death. I think death is important. I think that for the world to be scary, you have to have death. Um, like I said, I'm more on the debt side than the XP loss. With and just combine, it can keep growing. Like even if you fill your bar, it keeps going. You got to work that debt off before you're even earning any experience in the level.
yep.
I don't know. I think a lot of people are worried about death. I think a lot of people think death has to be very meaningful, and I do as well. Um, but yeah, I think we're both on the same page. I think that Pantheon has to have. We have to be terrified to die.
Terrified, no, but understand that there is definitely a solid consequence. Yes,
I don't know, man. You were never terrified to die,
I was.
dude. I
I was
remember
absolutely.
in EQ, one little bubble. You had the was it 5 bubbles, and you had the bar across the bubbles.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I remember playing like 16 hours to get 2 bubbles, like 8 hours a bubble at some levels, and you
Certain
die.
levels, the hell levels for sure.
Yeah, and you would die and lose it. Like you'd lose 8 to 16 hours in one death.
Well, the thing in EverQuest though, if you died and you got one of the 96% reses, which was a level 56 cleric spell,
Mm,
you only lost about 1% of the experience you'd gotten. Like what you died, you lose say 8%, and if you got that 96% res, you'd get 7% back. So it was like a kill or two
yeah.
that you were missing. So that
Yes.
was an acceptable system to me.
Just rely on
Because once
healers.
once you're established, no, not rely on them, but you had a network, and you could get a buddy to come out and res you, or you could contact the group in the other camp and say, "Hey, I got a corpse here. Can your cleric, toss me a res whenever you find time?"
Yeah.
There's always a way.
Well, and what's important here is you've brought up two different things around death that build social community. You know,
Exactly.
your networking of people, the reach,
Yep.
3 things: reaching out to a rival guild, and having people look for your corpse and stuff like that. So, the thing is, when death is meaningful like this, and it's a struggle to get back
Yep.
what you lost, the community becomes more important. And I think that's pretty big. And with what Pantheon preaches, I mean, that's everything. That's a
Hmm.
built-in community matters moment. So
Yep. And I've been on the flip side of it too, where I've been the monk in a dungeon and gotten a whisper or a tell from somebody and said, "Hey, I died at this location near this camp. Can you go and try and find me?" And I'm always like, "Absolutely, dude. I'm on it."
yeah,
You know?
just drag their corpse, fiend, drag their
Yep.
corpse. Yeah, it's
Yep.
gonna be pretty interesting to see how that plays out. But again, I just death needs to happen. Death needs to be scary. Maybe not terrifying, but scary.
Yep.
And it has to kick you in the ass. You got to learn from it. You got to learn from it, and it comes back to that: play your role, play intelligently, don't zerg, plan out your
Yeah.
strategies. Um,
Think it through.
yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot of players who haven't played this style of game that are going to struggle with that for a little bit. I'm not
Yeah.
saying they won't be able to learn. I'm not saying that they won't be able to play the game or this isn't the game for them. None of that nonsense. But I
Nope.
do honestly think that, you know, it's going to breed a group of players having to relearn what they know about MMOs. So, and I like that. I look forward to it. I look forward to being someone to help somebody learn that.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anything else to add on?
I have one little additive. And do you remember in WoW they had those failure detection pylons? Do you remember what those were?
Oh yeah.
If you wiped and you were near it, you could respawn closer to the
Mhm.
place you died. I'm not opposed to those being in this either. Maybe not in that form, but something to help you get back if you have the forethought to bring it or to set it up or to whatever that may be, whatever system they want to implement for it. I'm not opposed to that either.
So if
I
you're
like that
camping a
idea
large
too.
area, somebody can
Yeah,
throw down some conduit in the back
you
safe
throw down a,
corner.
a campfire, and like that's a rally point for your group. I like those systems as
Yeah. Yeah, because it takes strategy and planning and have a
well.
cooldown
Exactly.
on it. Have a group
There has to be
cooldown.
limitations. It can't be OP, and you get where I'm coming from here.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's actually a pretty interesting idea. And again, it
Hmm.
would have to have like a group cooldown. So like when you use it once, it's down for an hour or
A
so. You
day or
can't just
whatever it
keep.
is. Oh,
Yeah.
an hour. I was thinking a
Well,
day,
yeah,
but
two
you know
hours,
what I'm
3 hours.
saying
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, whatever it is. But a day, harm touch.
Well, lay on hands. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. So that is not as scary as death probably is in real life.
Not today.
Oh, what do
Mm-mm.
you say to death when it's knocking at the door?
Not today.
Awesome. Guys, thank you for watching our videos, for following us on Twitter and the YouTube. We're this close to 700. We're at 690 at the time of filming, and we're not putting this out till next week. So this is going to be completely wrong. Help us out,
Let's hope.
everybody. We're driving to 1,000. We're driving to 1,000. It's going to take a few months, but if you like what we do, hit that subscribe button. Hayah, thank you very much, my friend.
Thank
And
you, and thank all of you guys.
you will be probably dragging my corpse quite a bit, but don't worry,
Yep.
I can drag yours. I can probably sneak and drag. So,
Nice.
all right, guys, thank you, and again, we'll see you next week.